Presented by Cursed by the Witch. Warning, use headphones before listening to horror podcast story.
Voices in the Cellar is a deeply unsettling horror story that delves into the mysteries of an ancient, cursed house and the eerie sounds that echo from the darkness beneath. The tale follows a family who, unaware of the property's disturbing history, move into an old, decaying mansion only to discover that the cellar holds far more than just dust and forgotten memories. It's a story about loss, madness, and the horrifying consequences of ignoring the warnings of the past. Part 8. The New Beginning. The story begins with the Miller family, John, his wife Sarah, and their teenage daughter Emily, moving into an isolated, long-abandoned mansion located on the outskirts of a small town. The house is a massive structure, its stone walls crumbling and covered in ivy, its windows dark and foreboding. To the Millers, the mansion represents a fresh start, an opportunity to escape the chaos of the city after a family tragedy, the recent loss of their youngest son, Lucas, who had died in a tragic accident. Sarah hopes the peace and quiet will help them heal, while John is drawn to the idea of restoring the once grand house to its former glory. Despite its decayed state, the house has a certain charm, and the family is excited to begin their new life. The local townspeople, however, are less enthusiastic. Whispers of the house's dark past reach the Millers almost immediately. Locals tell them of strange disappearances, suicides, and madness that have plagued those who lived there before. It is said that no one who enters the cellar ever leaves the same. John dismisses these stories as mere superstition, but Sarah feels a growing sense of unease. On the first night, as they settle into their new home, they hear strange sounds coming from below, faint whispers, barely audible, as if someone is speaking just beneath the floorboards. John brushes it off, thinking it's just the house settling, but Sarah and Emily are unnerved. Little do they know, the whispers are only the beginning. Part 2. The History of the House. As the days pass, the strange occurrences continue. The whispers grow louder, becoming a constant, eerie murmur that seems to come from the cellar, which remains locked with a rusted iron key they found in a drawer. Sarah begins to experience vivid nightmares of being trapped underground, surrounded by voices that scream her name, while Emily starts sleepwalking, always heading toward the cellar door in the middle of the night. Curious about the house's past, Sarah visits the local library and uncovers a disturbing history. The mansion was built in the late 1800s by a reclusive man named Gregor Reinhardt, a wealthy businessman who became infamous in the town for his strange behavior and his obsession with the occult. He was rumored to have held dark rituals in the cellar, invoking spirits and demons, hoping to gain immortality by binding himself to the house. Over the years, Reinhardt's family suffered mysterious deaths. His wife, children, and servants all perished under unusual circumstances. Reinhardt himself was found dead in the cellar, his body twisted and contorted in a way that defied explanation, his face frozen in a silent scream. After his death, the house remained abandoned for decades, as anyone who attempted to live there reported hearing the same eerie voices coming from below. Sarah's heart sinks as she realizes the significance of the cellar. She urges John to leave the house, but he dismisses her fears, insisting that they can't afford to move again. He becomes increasingly obsessed with restoring the house, spending hours in the basement despite the chilling atmosphere. Part 3. Descent into the Cellar. One night, the whispers grow louder, turning into distinct, urgent voices calling their names. Emily, entranced, approaches the cellar door and begins to speak to someone on the other side, though no one is visible. Sarah wakes to the sound of her daughter's voice and finds her at the cellar door, her hand on the rusted key, about to open it. Panicking, Sarah pulls Emily away, but her daughter resists, her eyes vacant, as though in a trance. They want us to come, Emily whispers, her voice eerily calm. They said they're waiting for us. John, skeptical of what he calls Sarah's overreaction, decides to open the cellar and investigate once and for all. Despite Sarah's pleas, he unlocks the door, and they descend into the darkness together, the air thick with the smell of damp earth and decay. The cellar is vast, far larger than it appeared from the outside, with tunnels and chambers stretching deep into the ground. As they explore, they find remnants of Reinhardt's rituals, symbols carved into the walls, strange artifacts, and what appears to be a makeshift altar in the center of the main chamber. Suddenly, the whispers intensify, growing into a cacophony of voices. Sarah and Emily are frozen in terror as they hear their own names being called from the shadows. John, too, begins to hear the voices, but he refuses to leave, convinced that there's something valuable hidden within the cellar. The deeper they venture, the more oppressive the atmosphere becomes, as if the walls themselves are closing in on them. Part 4. The Spirits Awaken. As the family explores further, they stumble upon a hidden chamber that reeks of death. Inside, they find skeletal remains, dozens of bodies piled together, their faces twisted in agony. Reinhardt's victims. The voices become deafening, and the air grows thick with a sense of malevolent presence. Suddenly, the cellar door slams shut above them, trapping them inside. The temperature drops, and the family is plunged into darkness. In the flickering light of their single flashlight, they see shadowy figures emerging from the walls, spirits of the dead, their faces contorted in pain and rage. The spirits speak in garbled whispers, blaming the Millers for disturbing their eternal rest, for awakening the curse that had been dormant for decades. Voices in the Cellar is a chilling exploration of dark history and the unseen horrors lurking beneath the surface of a seemingly ordinary home. It delves into themes of grief, obsession, and the dangers of disturbing forces that should remain buried. The eerie atmosphere, relentless tension, and haunting revelations leave both the characters and the reader trapped in a nightmare that refuses to end.
Thank you for watching. Just like and subscribe.